Um, Andy, I suppose a good starting point would be to discuss or get you to paint the picture for me how you became a paramedic. What was the driving force, the motivation behind that?
Okay, well, my great-grandfather, had a heart attack at my little brother's christening in 1994. And I can remember the ambulance arriving and the excitement in the house, for me anyway, the excitement in the house of these two men coming in and just taking control. And almost like heroes to my very young 5-year-old mind. And from that point, I wanted to do that. I wanted to be that sense of calm that came into the situation.
So you trained to be a paramedic and then you left these shores?
I did, yeah. I went off to England at 19. So here in Northern Ireland, you had to be 21 to join, but you had to join the non-emergency and work your way up. Whereas I went to England and I was qualified at 21. So it was a quicker way of doing things.
And how busy was that for you?
Oh, it was wonderful. I worked in the city centre of Ballymena, so it was the second busiest ambulance station in the UK. But it was wonderful. Every day went really fast, but you learnt lots, which was fantastic.
Then you reached that point where you felt there was something else that you would like to do. What was that moment for you?
Well, I suppose I had always thought about ministry as a teenager. Thought about ministry. Spoke to my home rector, who said, "Get life experience." That was his big advice: get life experience. So that's the ambulance service was ideal for that. And then when I came home at 24, my wife and I got married, and I just met a lovely curate, who's the rector in Ballymena now, just down the road. And he showed me a different way of doing things, I suppose, for ministry. Up until that point, all the clergy I'd met were old men. And here was a young man who was leading a church, and I thought, I like that.
Now, we've seen some photographs of you, minus the very healthy beard.
Oh, yeah.
So today you marry both being a clergy person and a part-time paramedic. How hectic, how demanding are those two roles, and are they easily blended together?
I suppose people automatically assume you can't do the two. They don't go together, but they do. Both are mission, both are outreach, both is about helping people in need. And quite often the crossover exists on emergency calls. People who, once you've got the physical side sorted, maybe need spiritual guidance as well. And there's a real comfort in being able to say to people, well, I am a minister, can I help? And it's wonderful to be able to do that.
What's their reaction whenever you say that to them?
A bit of surprise. Quite often people sort of look at you as if, are you mad? What do you mean you do both? But I suppose it depends on the situation. If it's a sudden death, people are very appreciative of prayers and guidance. And it's also nice if somebody's scared and they are praying to have somebody pray with them.
What's been the reaction of those people you work with in the service? Do they find it easy to comprehend, easy to come to terms with that here's a man of the cloth, who's also a paramedic?
I think I'm well known in the ambulance service for being a bit extra, a bit unusual. So they just leave me to it, I think, is the way to describe it. They just, that's just Andy being Andy, let him do it,
Timetabling, is that a big issue for you?
No, actually it works quite nicely. I only do 2 shifts a month, just to keep my hand in, which I do on my day off. And it's also a good way of relieving stress of the parish life, going and driving an ambulance very fast for a couple of hours,
So you're at the wheel of the ambulance, responding to emergency calls in a supplementary, in a supportive role, is it, to the main service?
I tend to work on the car because I prefer working on my own. So I would arrive first at incidences and calls and accidents, and then wait for backup to arrive.
Now, you're not very long here, I think, 18 months?
18 months, yeah.
20 months. When parishioners got to learn about your other life, as it were, what was their reaction?
Most of them have asked about medical advice. I've got a rash, can you tell me what it is, Reverend? Or I'm on these medication, the doctor's given me these tablets, what are they for? Which is nice, but there's also a nice appreciation that I have done something else. I'm not some 20-year-old coming in, I'm somebody who's lived a little bit as well.
Yes, that life experience is important.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you see this progressing? Will you continue to be a volunteer ambulance person, a volunteer paramedic?
For a couple of years anyway. I'm very close to my long service medal, and I want to get it. I want to have that achievement. I suppose when I'm Archbishop, I'll have to give it up.
In the church itself, there's always a demand for whatever assistance you can offer to people in time of need, in time of stress, in time of great challenge. Has your experience as a paramedic had a crossover? Has it had an influence on your ability to talk to the people who need that kind of interaction, that kind of face-to-face help?
I think so. I think having been with people at the worst moment of their life, as something has happened, has given me an insight into how better to deal with it afterwards as well. A little bit strange at first, going from responding to maybe arriving a couple of hours down the line or a day down the line, but it's a journey for these people as they go through that grief or difficulty. And I have a better understanding when somebody is passing away of what is physically happening to them, and being able to give that advice and guidance and tell them this is normal, this is what's going to happen. I've seen that provide relief and comfort almost to some.
Now, of course, none of this is one-dimensional. You have the essential support of your wife in all of this. How big a help is she?
Oh, Laura has been behind me from day one. She was very clear when I went for ordination that she didn't marry a clergyman, and she wasn't going to be, I suppose, stereotypical baking buns and doing bits on a Sunday. But she is there and she picks up the pieces, because quite often being clergy is lonely. You've friends in the parish, but they're not friends that you can tell everything to, because you're being told things that you can't share. So it's about having somebody at home that you can be yourself with. And she's been there through some really difficult things. She's been the one to tell me to wind my neck in if I'm going too far, but also she's been my number one fan and supporter, and she's fantastic. And she'll be the first one to tell me a sermon was bad, but she'll also be the first one to say, you need to do more, which is good.